I have a history of seizures. There are various types of seizures, and I'm not going to go through all that, but you can educate yourself about it if you want to. Anyway, seizures can be triggered by various things, and sometimes seizures are triggered by visual things that affect the eyes visually, like lights flashing, for example. Anyway, since I have a history of having seizures, I fortunately almost always have some kind of physical symptoms that give me a heads up, so to speak, let me know when a seizure is coming. So I usually have, almost always have very good, I've never had one just happen by surprise and it just hit me, and I almost always have some kind of forewarning, so I know when to lie down, so I can experience the seizure, go through it, get it over with. So I knew tonight, after taking a CBD gummy, that after I watched a little black and white video of, I don't remember what it was for sure. Bill showed me, my boyfriend Bill showed me an old black and white movie video, and it was very flashy, kind of flashy, poor quality. And I didn't think about it, but something with that video affected my eyes, thus somewhat eventually triggering a seizure in me. But I didn't quite have it right away. But apparently the gummy that I had with THC in it enhanced my sensitivity to this trigger that causes seizures in me. And so I ended up telling Bill, you know what, Bill, I'm going to have a seizure. I'm going to lie down. And Bill had never really experienced one of my hard seizures. And so he said, well, what do I do? And I said, well, I'm gonna lie down. I'm probably going to lose my eyesight. I can have my eyes completely wide open, but I go blind. And usually I can talk. This was one instance where I had what was called a grand mal seizure, where I can't talk. I couldn't talk. But anyway, at first I could talk. I said, I'm losing my eyesight. And I said, well, you can't do anything. Just watch me and make sure I'm okay. And so, excuse me. Anyway, so I knew what was happening. Didn't freak me out or anything. Anyway, I knew I could see what Bill was doing, while I knew I physically could not express anything, or I verbally could not express anything. I was basically being bound by this seizure. But I made note to notice what Bill was doing. I was blind, and then at one point I could see, obviously. So I made note to notice what Bill was doing. For a while I couldn't see him. During the time I couldn't see him, I heard clicking noises, like camera sounds. I have to get this organized, I'm sorry. I could hear camera sounds, and I made note of that. That was during the time I was blind. And I wanted to know what that was. So I remembered to ask him what the camera sounds were. Then when I got my vision back, I noticed that he came over to my side and he was crying. And I remember he put his hands on my head and he put his hands on my neck, trying to calm me. And I remember I could feel that, and it felt calming. And this was his reality. This was my reality to an extent, but his reality, this was Bill's reality. He could see me moving moderately and mumbling. And he could see tears rolling down my eyes, but I wasn't moving to a great extent. I was moving my hands and legs maybe about 6 inches off the floor maximum, but trying my very best to hit the floor as hard as I could. My reality, however, was 100 times more severe. Bill's reality was I was mumbling, tears rolling down my face, veins sticking out of my head, appearance of pain, severe pain on my face, no verbal outbursts whatsoever, and heavy breathing, and my arms and legs moving maybe maximum 6 inches off the ground, off the floor. That was Bill's reality. I was of sound mind enough to know this, that from my reality, I knew to do certain things during my reality that I knew would get Bill's attention, so that I could ask him if he noticed them later on when I was out of this. My reality, mind you, was the most intense, most immense, undescribable emotional pain and frustration I can imagine. But it wasn't like an evil thing or a devil thing or going to hell or anything like that. It wasn't that at all. This wasn't a evil, good, bad thing or going to heaven or hell thing or anything like that. It was definitely a spiritual element to it. But it was a deeply emotional overall. I was screaming at the top of my voice, my reality, that I knew Bill could not see. I was screaming at the top of my lungs, as if someone was cutting me in half with a chainsaw, for help, to be seen, to be heard, as if I've been doing this my whole life. And I've never had success. And it's almost like this one opportunity, I felt like this is my chance. And I know he can't hear me, but this is my opportunity to do some things to get his attention, to prove I am actually right. Seizures are something real. You're not just going somewhere else. This is what really happens when seizures are happening. You are really experiencing these things in your mind. What is in your mind is your reality. My reality was what was happening in my mind. I was going through an explosion of built up pain, of emotions and frustrations that I feel like I have never been able to be heard or seen in regard to these ailments that cursed me. It was almost like I want to say there's a social neurological connection. I want to say it's like, I'm not speaking for everybody. I can't. This is my understanding of this thing. First of all, it's the first time I've ever experienced it from this perspective. But I knew I was going to feel this pain, obviously, because I must have felt it before. Because just before the screaming started, I said to myself, here I go again, not again. As if I knew I had done this before. So, it wasn't a new experience. It was just a new experience that I actually remembered. I don't know how else to put it. I feel like, for me, seizures are repressed memories that cause my brain to shock me, thus repressing those memories further. Therefore, I don't remember them, but I do remember the pain associated. So I think it makes sense to me. I'm just thinking out loud. I don't care if you think I'm a nutso. That's how my brain works. Good night.